Mike Sainristil, 2 seasons, 8 interceptions, playoffs, and Adam Peters just made a decision with this kid that is either an absolute act of faith or the most costly mistake of his career as Washington's general manager. Because there is a number buried in the 2025 film that once you see it, you cannot unsee it. A number that explains exactly why Peters went out this offseason and spent massive resources on Odafe Owe, Sonny Styles, Leo Chenal, and 3 more front 7 pieces, all of it to protect one single player in the secondary. The question is whether that is genius or whether that is a red flag disguised as confidence. And while we break down the mistake nobody in the DMV wants to say out loud, there is a parallel story that came back this week from Las Vegas that is going to show you exactly what it looks like when a franchise fails a player instead of the other way around. And to close it out, I'm revealing which weapon on this roster the entire Burgundy and Gold Nation has been sleeping on for 2 straight years. And trust me, after week 1 of 2026, nobody is going to be sleeping on him anymore. This starts right now. Hit that like button if you trust the process and subscribe to the real Commander Nation. Raise hail. Listen. There's a conversation Commanders fans have been avoiding because it's uncomfortable, because it forces you to pick a side. And today, we are having it. Mike Sainristil, year 3. Is this guy actually the cornerback of the future for this franchise? Or have we been selling ourselves a feel-good story for 2 years while the secondary burns? Because look, I've watched the tape. 2025 season, Sainristil starts the year playing at a legitimate Pro Bowl level. For real, the first 7 games, this dude was competing with the best corners in the conference, and then week 7 happened. We lost Dorrance Armstrong Jr., our best pass rusher, and from that moment forward, Sainristil got cooked. 7 out of the 10 remaining games, opposing quarterbacks posted a passer rating of 100 or better targeting his side. Now here comes the question that's burning me from the inside out. Was that on Sainristil? Or was that on a system that left him completely alone with no help whatsoever? Look at what the numbers actually say. When Washington had real edge pressure in the first stretch of the season, Sainristil was nearly unbeatable. When Armstrong went down and the pass rush became a joke, Sainristil turned into a fighter with both hands tied behind his back. Quarterbacks had all the time in the world. And no corner in the NFL survives that. Jalen Ramsey in his prime doesn't survive that. But here's what's got me genuinely torn. And I need y'all to stay with me because this actually matters. Adam Peters saw the exact same problem, and Peters' response this offseason was brutally direct. He signed Odafe Owe. He brought in K'Lavon Chaisson, Charles Omenihu for depth and experience. He drafted Joshua Josephs. He added Leo Chenal in free agency and spent the number 7 overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft on Sonny Styles. 6 new pieces for the front 7 and 1 offseason 6 to protect a secondary that only received 3 additions. You know what that tells me? Peters believes in Sainristil. Peters is building the entire defensive structure around the premise that if you give this corner a real pass rush in front of him, he is going to flourish. And that is a massive bet, fam. A massive bet on a year 3 player who still hasn't proven he can sustain an elite level for a full 17-game season. And I have to be real with y'all. I am genuinely split between 2 versions of reality here. The optimistic version says Sainristil is exactly what we want him to be. 8 interceptions in 2 NFL seasons, including the playoffs. His game against Jameson Williams in the divisional round was a masterclass in field anticipation and pure athleticism. His defensive football IQ grows week over week according to the film, and in that Thursday night football loss at Lambeau in 2025, when the Packers tried to use the same dump-off to a running back twice on a long down and distance, Sainristil adjusted in real time at full game speed and contained the second attempt far better than the first. That is not what an average corner does. That is what a student of the game does. The pessimistic version says the red flags are there. Sainristil still gave up a passer rating over 100 in 3 games, even when the pass rush was working early in the year. There was an October Sainristil who looked like a Pro Bowl alternate and a December Sainristil who was being systematically exploited. Which one shows up in September of 2026? Look, I could be wrong, but my gut tells me the real answer lives somewhere in the middle. Sainristil is not an elite corner yet, but he has the technical structure, the football intelligence, and the playmaker instinct to become one. And if the new front seven, Owe, Chason, Styles, all of them, delivers what Peters is expecting, Sainristil could take a leap that silences every single critic. Year 3 in the NFL is where you separate the real ones from the guys who just look the part. And here in Washington, with Durant Jones calling a new defense with more pass rush than this team has had in years, and with 2 full seasons of experience in his body, Mike Sainristil has everything he needs to make that jump. But if he fails, if we get to November and quarterbacks are still burning him regardless of the pass rush, if the coverage metrics don't move, then we have to have a very different conversation about whether Peters bet too much on the secondary staying the same without upgrading it directly. That is the real conversation nobody wants to have yet. I am having it right now. Tell me in the comments, do you believe Sainristil makes the leap in 2026 with that front seven in front of him, or have you already seen enough to know you can't trust him? And speaking of bets that went sideways, there's a story that came back this week and it turns my stomach every single time I see it. Because it is the permanent reminder of what the Ron Rivera era actually was in Washington. Jamon Davis just got released by the Las Vegas Raiders without even making it to OTAs. Pick number 19 in the 2021 NFL Draft. A first-round selection, a promise that Washington buried under 5 years of bad decisions and even worse, player development. And listen, I want to be fair to Davis as a person. The dude had athleticism. He had the frame. He had the combine metrics that made Rivera and his staff dream about a franchise linebacker for the future. But what Rivera never had was a coherent plan to actually develop him. Rivera threw Davis into the deep end his first season and expected him to swim. He drowned. Then Rivera kept doubling down year after year. No adequate coaching structure, no real supporting cast around him, no system-level framework that a developing linebacker needs to actually grow. When Quinn arrived, he saw what the rest of us had been watching, a player who had never been properly taught the position at the pro level. The switch to edge rusher was desperate. It didn't work. They cut him, and since then, Davis has bounced through Green Bay, Minnesota, the Jets, and now Las Vegas, never sticking anywhere for more than a handful of snaps. Keep it a buck. This is not just the failure of Jamon Davis. This is the failure of Ron Rivera as a talent evaluator and as a player developer. 4 first-round picks in 4 years. Chase Young destroyed by injuries with zero workload management plan. Jahan Dotson, a systemic disappointment. Emmanuel Forbes, a mistake that still stings. And Davis, the clearest symbol of everything that was broken. And now Washington is in the process of erasing that legacy piece by piece. Styles at 7, Chenal signed, Luvu and Meiji back, 4 real linebackers, defined roles, an actual plan, everything Davis never had. If this is the last stop of Jamon Davis's NFL career, let it be on record forever. He did not fail alone. Rivera failed him, and Rivera failed this entire franchise. And to close out the day with something that has the entire burgundy and gold nation genuinely smiling, let's talk about a weapon that is not getting nearly enough credit heading into 2026. 2 punt return touchdowns in his rookie season, tied for the league lead, 314 punt return yards, an average of 13.7 yards per return, 5th best in the entire NFL. And the way too early predictions for 2026 are saying Lane is not tying for the league lead this year. He is winning it outright. Man, sometimes the Commanders do something right and nobody celebrates it because everybody is locked in on Daniels. McLaurin, the offense, but special teams wins games. Special teams wins field position. Special teams shifts the momentum of an entire game in 3 seconds flat. And Lane is exactly that weapon. He is smooth. He is explosive, and he can embarrass any coverage team in the league on any given punt. And if Larry Izzo can develop the kick return element of his game to go alongside everything he already does on punts, we're talking about a perennial Pro Bowl special teamer for years to come right here in Ashburn. Do we underrate Lane? Absolutely. Are we going to keep underrating him after he breaks one in week 1 of 2026? Absolutely not. Lane is the hidden gem on this roster, and in 2026, the whole league is going to know his name. Fam, this team is in a real moment of transition. Peters is betting on Sainristil with a completely rebuilt front seven. The Rivera era is being buried piece by piece, and players like Jalen Lane remind us there is real hidden talent on this roster that is going to shock the entire league. Tell me in the comments, does Sainristil make the leap or not? That is the question of the year for this secondary. If this analysis hit different, drop that like right now because it helps me keep bringing this content to the DMV. And if you are not subscribed yet, what are you doing, bro? The Commanders are about to make serious noise, and you need to be here when it happens. Raise hail. See you in the next one.